What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Reporting live from Latrobe, PA. We had Friday Night Lights practice last night, and man, it was an absolutely electric atmosphere. Shout out to all the fans that were able to make it out, and for those of you guys that weren't able to, come join us at practice, wanted to kind of give you guys my takeaways so I can make sure that you all are informed about what all took place. But just want to kind of give you all my overarching takeaways, and I think the number one thing, man, was just an electric atmosphere, but an insanely competitive environment. One of the more competitive practices that I've ever seen or been a part of throughout my life. It was pretty awesome. Steelers. I think the offense looked really, really good throughout. I mean, they kind of dominated the day, to be honest with you. I thought the defense got the better of the offense yesterday, or excuse me, on Thursday. But man, Friday Night Lights, the offense lit it up, man. I think, 7 shots. They ended up winning basically 7-0. Justin Fields was able to find Pat Fryermuth in the flat route. Looked like there was some miscommunication between Dante Jackson and Deshaun Elliott on that one. And then we saw some bunch formations. We saw some empty 13 personnel. But Fields, I think he went 3 for 3 basically in the red zone period. Looked really good from that. A lot of that empty 13 personnel stuff is stuff that y'all are going to see a lot of once the season rolls around. Did see the backs get involved a little bit in the 7 shots period. Najee Harris scored a touchdown on the third rep. Even one thing that I thought was really cool was like Mike Tomlin was kind of playing up the environment, right? Usually in 7 shots, you get the starters, then you get the backups, and maybe the third string gets one rep to end it off. He went back to the starters for the final rep of 7 shots, and then he had Pickens versus Porter on a goal line fade for the final rep. And unfortunately, that one kind of ended in an anticlimactic manner just because there was a lot of penalty flags thrown. They got Porter for DPI, and the pass wasn't like super accurate because of that. But yeah, offense won 7-0. Really impressive showing from them in that regard. They honestly made it look pretty easy, but really that electric atmosphere and the competitiveness of the practice really backs on backers set that tone. I cannot describe how intense that was and how much trash talking there was between both of those groups. And really it started with kind of the key players, right? Like you got Najee Harris, Jalen Warren as kind of the leaders of the running back room. You got Patrick Queen, Landon Roberts, the leaders of the linebacker room. Those 4 guys were jawing back and forth the entire time. And they started off the drill as well. Very first couple reps that we saw were actually Alex Highsmith versus Darnell Washington. Highsmith had a really nice move on the inside spin move, but then after that, man, Darnell Washington was absolutely dominant. Like he was an absolute tank in the drill. They had him going up against Alex Highsmith. They had him going up against Nick Herbig, like legit NFL level edge rushers in a drill that is very much designed for the defense to kind of win. They're set up in those one-on-one situations. But Washington, I was really impressed with his posture, his balance, his patience with his hands. He was really good just from a technical perspective, man. Like you saw a lot of really good things from him in that drill. And, that's something that he showed when we did the film room on Darnell coming out of college. For those of you guys that were here on the channel back during the draft 2 years ago, that Georgia left him on an island from time to time on those play action, pass play concepts, those max protection looks, and he was able to hold his own. And it doesn't really necessarily surprise me, but man, it's really impressive when you have a guy that's able to do something like that at the NFL level. But like I said, after that, man, the backs and the backers were going absolutely nuts. Najee Harris had 2 really good wins against Patrick Queen. Really, really strong anchor to absorb some bull rushes from PQ. One of the very first rep between those two, he ended up tossing PQ to the ground, got up, a lot of jawing. PQ wanted to run it back. Najee got the better of him again, though. So it was really impressive from Najee. And then Jalen Warren and Landon Roberts went right after that. And there was a ton of trash talk, ton of everything. Roberts went, basically full bull rush, ended up cracking Jalen's visor on his helmet. Like that's how much force was behind his power and his momentum right there. They got Jalen ready to go. Very next rep, he comes back. He stonewalls Roberts, throws him to the turf. He's like standing over him. They're talking trash, everything else. And I just think, you when we talked to Mike Tomlin after the practice too, right? Like he was saying that it was like honestly a blessing to have two running backs that take that much pride in their pass protection. They kind of set the tone, not just for the drill, but like I said, I think it set the tone for the practice, the competitiveness of those guys. And even as the other members of those position groups were kind of working in and out of the drill, they were, honestly still jawing and everything. It was very intense, but it's funny. I think it was getting to the point where it was extremely hostile. Mike Tomlin stepped in. He was like 30-22, y'all are done. Y'all are done. Get back. Because I think honestly, Najee and Jalen were trying to get back in there. They wanted even more reps. And I think when you got backs like that that take that much pride in pass protection, we talk about it all the time. Like that's the way to get on the field. And it was pretty cool to see that. But those were kind of like my overarching kind of thoughts on backs on backers. Just set the tone for practice. I thought DeMarvin Leal finished that drill pretty good. He's still getting some edge rusher reps right now, but overall, I thought that some other guys that I thought had good practices from an edge rusher standpoint. Marcus Golden was fantastic yesterday. Just I think the depth that they've got right now at edge, like Nick Herbig, I mentioned it a little bit yesterday as well, or Thursday, excuse me, but his burst off the ball, very real. Like his first step, absolutely electric. But Golden, man, you can't tell that this dude was just signed, a little less than 48 hours ago. He was super impressive to me, really throughout team, made some good plays in the team run period. But he also was winning one-on-ones with relative ease as well. And then Peyton Wilson had a couple nice reps as a rusher too, and we've talked about that a lot, right? I think this off-ball linebacker group with Roberts, with Queen, with Wilson, those guys are really good blitzers, and I expect that this is going to open up a lot of possibilities for what TA can do from a scheme perspective. But yeah, Leal. Again, I know a lot of people were really talking him up before I got here to Latrobe, but I've been pretty impressed with what I've seen so far. And just to kind of go over like some of my general thoughts from the team periods. I thought Justin Fields was absolutely fantastic yesterday. I thought he was relatively uneven the day before. You saw some flashes, but I thought he was really indecisive. Last night, completely different player to me. The biggest takeaway from me was like in quick game, the ball was out right on time as soon as he hit the back foot of his drop. I just felt like there were several instances of him getting to his second or third read in a timely manner, or even sometimes just finding his check down out in the flat to the backs. We didn't see him take really like any of those coverage sacks where he was, double, triple clutching before eventually rolling out of the pocket. Those aren't really like the type of reps that you want to see in these types of settings. But his work as a passer yesterday was awesome. Not just the accuracy, but just the decisiveness in the pocket. Was really impressed with the way that he was seeing the game last night, especially for a practice that he took a ton of reps. Man, like Russell Wilson's still not doing a ton. He's not really involved in the team drills very much at all, dealing with that calf injury. I thought that Justin did a really good job with a lot of volume over the course of practice. And then I think too, like everybody knows, Fields is fantastic skill set for a quarterback in terms of just the overall tools, not just the size, the athleticism that he has when he takes off as a runner, but just the arm strength. There were two throws yesterday that I thought stood out to me. In a particularly impressive manner. He hit a deep out route to George Pickens out of the gun. It was like basically like a three-step. He just absolutely ripped this thing to the sideline. I mean, Joey Porter Jr. had relatively good coverage, but it was, away from leverage. And you really saw the ball kind of fly out of his hand. And really the most impressive throw that I saw him make yesterday was he hit Calvin Austin on kind of a deep search route. So search route for me is kind of just like you're working out of the slot and you're normally like you have the option to sit down or work back or at around like 15 or so yards. It's a big part of Arthur Smith's playbook. And, he absolutely fired one in. I mean, there was relatively tight coverage, but he lasered one in between two linebackers with a really nice throw to Calvin, who made a nice grab. So overall, the RPMs that he was putting on these throws yesterday, and I just thought the overall accuracy, the decisiveness was much, much better. Really strong performance from Justin, and I was very happy to see that. The other things too, like I got to talk to Pat a little bit after practice and, asking him about the offense, and he's really excited about what they're doing. And really my main takeaway about the offense is they've been able to create some pretty advantageous matchups for him and George, just moving them around the formation, getting them in bunch formations, getting them at the foot of the stack, getting them some easier targets than what they've had. I think for Pat, I think he's going to be involved more on the front side of the progression. He's actually going to have like plays kind of quote unquote designed for him to get the ball, which I don't think was always necessarily the case, especially last year, even when he was healthy. And then George has been pretty much uncoverable. I mean, him and Joey have had really competitive matchups, but they've moved George around the formation so much that I don't think we've seen as many one-on-one reps as maybe we did last year. But George has had a really fantastic camp. Like he looks exactly how you would expect him to look in this type of setting, with him being the number one wide receiver entering the fall. And then I think like just the overall offense, the feel of the passing game looks completely different. Like just the where the targets are kind of coming from. A lot of end breakers. You're seeing a lot of slants. I even saw a couple like backside digs hit from the quarterbacks. I know Russ hit one, Kyle Allen hit one. Just some of those intermediate deep crossers off play action. The offense just has more of a varied feel to it in the passing game than it has, when we'd watch film over the last 2 years, right? Like I think that's really been one of the bigger takeaways is just it looks completely different. So, as far as the offensive line, I know a lot of you guys had questions about that on the live stream yesterday, but told you I didn't really pay a ton of attention just because they didn't have pads on. But last night's practice, I tried to hone in a little bit more on some of the guys that you were asking questions about. First things first, like Troy Fautanu, I thought he had a really solid practice. Like him and Nick Herbig were matched up quite a bit with one another, and I felt like for the most part he definitely held his own. They had some really competitive reps. There was a time where Herbig tried to beat him with a ghost move up the arc, and Fautanu did a good job, moving his feet, pushing him up the arc. Very next play, Herbig tried to hit him with kind of like a little hesitation move and rip move to the inside. Did a good job closing the door on that one as well. I think Herbig did get him one time with an inside spin move, but I thought for the most part, Fautanu was doing a good job, take it to the coaching, using some of that independent hand usage, still getting to his landmarks. He definitely looks the part of what I expected him to look last night. He's still running with the second team. Basically, Broderick's playing with a huge brace on his elbow right now, but him and Fautanu are both strictly working on the right side. Dan Morsby, your first team left tackle. Dylan Cook, who I thought had some decent moments last night as well, also working at left tackle with the second string group. But overall, I thought that he was solid. I'm hoping to get, some more kind of eyes on him today. And then really at the center position, I thought that Nate Herbig looked really good last night. Like in the couple reps that I was paying attention to him, but like he had one like kind of highlight reel worthy block where they were running inside zone out of the gun, him and James Daniels was working a combo block. They did a really good job creating a really nice crease for Najee up the middle. Herbig's honestly looked better than I anticipated. I was kind of, rolling my eyes a little bit when the organization kept telling us, they were confident in his ability at center. I was like, man, I don't believe that. But honestly, they may have been telling the truth because he looks really solid. No overarching, concerns from my vantage point just through the couple days that I've been here. And even Zach Frazier, I was only able to really like focus in on Frazier on a handful of reps yesterday, mainly because I was kind of a little bit in awe of how Fields was playing. But like when Fields wasn't in the game, paid more attention to Frazier. I thought he did a good job. He closed off a bull rush from Fahoko that was really good that I noticed. I think Adams tried to win. He got a really good jump off the snap on his snap hand, which is something that we talked about in the Frazier film room a couple days ago or a week ago now, I guess. But he did a good job, shuffling his feet, moving laterally and shutting that down as well. But overall, I thought that the offensive line looked pretty solid. I think Najee and Jalen super, super competitive and kind of set the tone for the practice. There's some other stuff that you guys can go look at. I think that's pretty much all that I wanted to cover. Cam Sutton had a nice interception yesterday. Ryan Watts had a nice interception off Plumlee in the scramble drill. It's interesting because like the first team dime right now is basically Corey Trice. So Corey Trice is getting a lot of dime work. They're slowly ramping up his participation in practice, and I think that we're actually going to get the chance to see him in week one of the preseason, which I'm excited about. Um, we've seen some Darius Russian sub packages. Ryan Watts is also working pretty much as the dime backer. I've seen him matched up one-on-one on some reps on the tight ends, and I feel like he's been pretty solid as well. So that's going to be a really interesting personnel package. Of course, we're only going to get it a handful of times a game, but I think that, they've got some options in terms of how they want to deploy those 6 DBs, and I think they've got some flexibility. Also, Deshaun Elliott has been working in the slot a good amount too, like also like in the box. and doing some different things. And he had a sack yesterday off a really well timed blitz off the edge. And I think that he's going to be a really nice complement to what they've got with Mika and just provide a really steady veteran presence. But just some of the other guys, I'm trying to think, make sure I'm not missing anything. I'm probably going to say his name wrong, but Julius Welshoff, I wanted to give him a shout out too, just because I thought that he had a really solid day yesterday. He's like their international pathway player. There's not really a chance, I think, that he makes the active roster just because now that they brought Golden back, that they've kind of got their front four set, and that's usually how many they keep. And not just that, but like their edge rush group is pretty fantastic. They've got two, a superstar, a star level player in Highsmith, and then two really, really solid backups in my eyes. But Welshoff has some really nice moments. He's a bigger dude, but I thought that he was getting off the ball really well. There were some moments of him cornering their edge. I thought that he did a pretty decent job at backs on backers too. But he was just a little bit disruptive. He's somebody that I wasn't necessarily watching at all, but he caught my eye a couple times, so I wanted to give him a shout out. But man, I think you guys are going to be really excited to see this team come preseason. If you haven't been able to make it out to training camp, or I know there's a lot of videos circulating on social media, so you guys have been able to catch a lot of that. But I think this front seven, man, in particular, I think it's going to be freaking good, man. Queen is flying around. His speed is like, it's definitely something. They've tried to run so many screens over the course of the 2 days that I've been here, and he shut down pretty much single-handedly every single one of them because he's just been playing that instinctive. He did get banged up a little bit towards the end of practice. I don't know if he'll go today. I don't think it's anything major because I asked him about it. I was like, "You good?" He said, "Yeah." So I think it's minor. But if he is held out of practice, I wouldn't freak out today or anything like that. But he looks really good, man. I'm really excited for you guys to see PQ in this defense because I think he's going to have a really good year. So I appreciate you guys tapping in with me. All the support for the channel, the subscribers, anyone who comments, likes, all that stuff. That's all greatly appreciated on my end. You guys are a big reason, honestly, the primary reason that I'm able to do really cool stuff like this. Head out to Latrobe for camp. Also, shout out to Steelers Now. I've got a bunch of articles. My takeaways in written form and really in-depth form over the past 2 days are up on the site. Wrote a piece on Broderick Jones. That's also all on the site. Interview with Arthur Smith, where we talked about some pistol usage, some wind back counter, just overall offensive philosophy. That's on the site as well. You guys can go check that out. Also, if you want even more content from me, consider becoming a member to the channel. I really appreciate everybody that signed up. Shout out to you guys. There's a full hour-long Justin Fields film room. If you guys are interested in that sort of thing, that's readily available at your disposal as soon as you sign up. Then when I get back, my game plan is more film room stuff. And then, man, we're only a couple days away from the first preseason game. So I honestly couldn't sleep last night because I was so jacked up from practice. It was a lot of fun. I've had a great time out here in Latrobe. For those of you guys that are subscribers to the channel and have said what's up to me over the past couple of days, I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. If you guys are going to be out at camp today, definitely give me a shout, and I will check you guys next time. Peace and love.